Hello, my lovelies! My name is Lecka, and today we're going to be going over a deck that I call Macaron because of how sweet it is to stun your opponent into not being able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's really, really fun. It has a Zephyr engine in it. It is a pendulum-focused Skulkbat kind of deck that also has the Baron de Fleur and Despot play in it as well that we're going to be using to get us some advantages like Herald of the Arclight and everything that I'll be able to show you guys here in just a second. But before we get anywhere in this video, make sure that you go ahead and lick that like button and subscribe because they taste delicious and also because it helps out the channel immensely. And I appreciate all of you guys that do and have. I know that I've posted a lot of other videos on the channel and you guys have been doing amazing support. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers, which is fucking amazing, and I'm going to be doing a 1K special video. You guys voted and the unanimous vote was that I will be doing a special deck list that is based on 1,000. So if you're ready for that, make sure that you hit the subscribe so that we can get to that sooner versus later. But let's go ahead and get on into the deck list. So this is a 43 card deck, and we have all of the hand traps in here. We have Effect Veiler, we have Ash Blossom, we have Max C, we have freaking Nibiru, we have all different kinds of things in such a while because of Crossout Designator so that we can stop our opponents from using them against us. In addition, we also have a lot of traps in this one, and by a lot, I say that this is a lot for me because I don't usually run almost any traps, but specifically with this deck, it's to prevent the opponent from playing. So we have Solemn Judgment, we have Solemn Warning, and we have one Solemn Strike because that's all I have. I don't have a lot of these very, very rare and good UR ones because URs are expensive and hard to have. And this deck already is a really expensive deck to begin with, so there we go. If you're wondering why my Zephyrath is dismantled, it's because I had to break it down in order to already start making another deck. So when I show you guys the plays of this video, I actually have it enabled. However, we are going to show you guys what it is that we're doing here, and my cats just started playing with their cat toy, which is why it's jiggling in the background here. We have two different kinds of plays that we can go on in here with our Crystron Halka-Fibrax that's in our extra deck. We can either go the Despot play and have it summon our Mecha Phantom Beast so that we can then go into our Danglong so that we can then use these counter traps to set our different monster like Zephraniu, for example, so that we can then use our counter trap as a negate. We also have the option of going with the Jet Synchron Baron de Fleur play so that we can use Crystron Halka-Fibrax to summon Jet Synchron instead so that we can then go into our shenanigans of getting Dagda and then Artifact Scythe and then going into Baron de Fleur. In the two examples I'm going to show you, I use the Despot play to get out Danglong so we could have that counter trap negate, and then also getting out Psy-Frame Lord Omega so that we would have an interrupt, which in one of the examples is going to be very funny and it works out really, really well for interrupting our opponent's play and make them DC. Which is super nice. But you can do either or depending on the situation and what it is that you want to do. We also have O-Lion in here. We have two of them that we're running specifically so that when we're doing our Despot play during the Mecha Phantom Knight portion of it, if we accidentally draw one in our hand, there's still another one that could be there in the deck. Now, in order to even get this to happen, the way that you want your board to look and be set up is you're going to want to have a Skulkbat so that you can then get a Pendulum Sorcerer in your hand, and we have Duelist Alliance in here so that we can then get Lustor Pendulum, because you want to have Lustor Pendulum and Pendulum Sorcerer in your spell card zones so that you can have Lustor Pendulum's effect destroy the Sorcerer so we can then have one in our extra deck, use its ability to get another Pendulum Sorcerer into our hand, and then play that so we can destroy Lustor Pendulum to then look through our deck and get Performapal Odd-Eyes Synchron out, because Performapal Odd-Eyes Synchron allows us to turn the Skulkbat that's still on our field into a tuner, which then allows us to do our Crystron Halka-Fibrax plays. Now, that sounds like a lot because it is, but those are the reasons that we have all those cards in here. And it'll be a lot easier to show you how all of that works in a physical example in the things that you can fast forward through the video if you want to see the example of that. But to explain the rest of the deck, we also have Guiding Ariadne in here because we are having its abilities for if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can reveal 3 counter traps from your deck, and your opponent has to choose one of them for you to add to your hand, which is really, really nice. So with many different cards we have in here that destroy other cards on the field, it's very good to have so that we can have another counter trap to then be added into our hand that we can use to stun our opponent and prevent them from playing. We also have our Abyss Actor Curtain Riser. It gains 1100 attack if you control no other monsters. Once per turn, you can send one Abyss script spell from the deck to the graveyard, which isn't really useful for us, but if it's in the Pendulum Zone, if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your Pendulum Zone, which is really nice, which is why we have 2 of them, because if we end up drawing it and we don't get the play that we need, it's really helpful for at least being able to get something out onto the field and having its really high pendulum scale as well to work with. Even if we have Lustor Pendulum, if we don't get to have our ideal play of Perform a Pal Sorcerer and Lustor Pendulum for going into the duel with. We also are running exactly 1 Perform a Pal Odd Eyes Dissolver, and the reason that we have the Dissolver in here is because we can use it to fusion summon our Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, which is going to actually happen in one of the duels. Because with the ability of this one, at the start of the damage step, if your Pendulum monster battles an opponent's monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, your monster cannot be destroyed by that battle. You can only use this effect of Perform a Pal Odd Eyes Dissolver once per turn. During your main phase, you can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters on your field, hand, and or pendulum zones, including this card, which is super, super nice because it essentially makes it so that we don't need to have any extra cards in our deck for having fusion summoning cards, because our deck is already so thick at 43 cards because we can't really break it down too much more because we want to be able to keep the stockness in here that we have. So it's really, really nice. I love having this in here, and it comes in really clutch. You might be thinking, well, you don't even need to have the Vortex Dragon in, but being able to summon it with all of the different cards that we're going to be having swarmed onto our field, because Pendulum Summons are very good at having a lot of monsters on your field at one time, it works out very nicely. We're also running 1 Harpy's Feather Duster because it's very important to have it. We have 1 Zephyr Providence in here so that we can get out Zephyrath, because Zephyrath has an ability where you can send a card from your deck to your extra deck and it'll change its scale. So that's why we're running exactly 1 of Zephyraxi, and we have 1 of Zephraniu, because they're both used for being able to allow us to have our Zephyra counter traps or Yingxing counter traps work, in addition to allowing us to change the scale of Zephyrath to get shenanigans off. So it's nice to have in hand. Duelist Alliance essentially acts as 3 extra copies of Lustor Pendulum Dragon, so it's super great to have in here for the deck. Called by the Grave because meta, Cross-Eyed Designator because it's so helpful, especially in this deck, with being able to stop your opponent and stun them in as many ways as possible. It's great. Solemn Judgment for a counter trap, Solemn Warning for a counter trap, Solemn Strike for a counter trap, and the 9 Pillars of Yingxing for the counter trap. For the extra deck, we have that Vortex Dragon because it synergizes so well with the Dissolver. We have Herald of the Arclight because it's a negate that we're easily able to get out with the Mecha Phantom Beast play. We have TG Winter Magician because we need to have TG Winter Magician in the deck for the Baron de Fleur play. We have Dang Long because we actually have Mecha Phantom Beast go into Dang Long when we're doing our play. We have Psyframe Lord Omega as an interrupt as part of the Mecha Phantom Beast and Despot play. Baron de Fleur because Baron de Fleur. We have Crooked Cook and Baguska in the deck just for some options, because when these are all normal summoned, a lot of them are level 4s. So they're in there just because it's nice to have the utility of needing to use them, but I've never actually had the opportunity or chance to get them out because I'm always able to get out the other much more viable plays instead. We have Link Rebull and Salamangreat in here, again, just as options in case we need to be able to link someone out. We have one of the Electrum in here because they are so useful. This card is fantastic because you need 2 Pendulum monsters, but if this card is link summoned, you can add 1 Pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up so that you can then Pendulum summon it later on in that turn or in your next turn because you've already put it in there, which is super nice. Once per turn, you can target one other face-up card you control, destroy it, which in this deck with all of the abilities of things that get destroyed doing effects is amazing. You can add 1 Pendulum face-up monster from your extra deck to your hand, which is also really nice. If a card in your Pendulum Zone leaves the field, you get to draw 1 card, which helps significantly for draws because you can use this card to destroy things in your Pendulum Zone to then get more draws and trigger the effect of things in your graveyard or in the extra deck, which counts as the graveyard for Pendulum monsters. Because of the effects that happen, which is really nice. You can only use the effect of Heavy Metal Foes Electromite once per turn. Of course, we have Crystal and Halka Fibrax in here for the Despot or Baron de Fleur with the Jet Synchron play. Artifact Dagda has to be in here for the Artifact Scythe and Baron de Fleur play. Same with Mecha Phantom Beast, and then Apollo, which is just a nice Omni Negate in case we just happen to have 4 things that we swarmed onto the field and we need another Negate to happen because of the Pendulum summoning. Now, I know that that's a lot and kind of complicated. Pendulum monsters are especially confusing, but if you guys want to see the examples of all of these, that's what we are immediately about to go into so I can show you exactly how this deck works. Now with this hand, we got to go first, and it's very, very simple. We used Skullcrabat so that we could search for Pendulum Sorcerer, and we're going to place in our zone Lustor Pendulum and Pendulum Sorcerer so that we can use Lustor Pendulum's ability to destroy Pendulum Sorcerer to get an extra copy of Pendulum Sorcerer into our hand, to then set down as a scale for us to special summon, Pendulum Summon, the Performapal Sorcerer that we had previously destroyed onto the field. We then are using Performapal Sorcerer's ability for its monster ability to destroy a card that is on our field, to then allow us to search for another Performapal monster. So we destroyed Lustor Pendulum with the card's ability that we just special summoned to allow us to destroy Lustor Pendulum, who already used their ability this turn, so it's useless to us now, to look for Performapal Odd-Eye Synchron. We're now going to play Performapal Odd-Eye Synchron so that we can turn Skullcrabat into a tuner and start allowing us to do our Crystron Halqifibrax Deskbot play. Because it's a tuner, I then link summon Crystron Halqifibrax, and I'll go ahead and fast forward through this part because I then summon Despot to then special summon Mecha Phantom Beast, which then summons 3 tokens onto the field. We're going to get rid of, and Despot. We then are going to get rid of Despot and one of the tokens to summon Herald of the Arclight so that we have a negate on the field. We're then going to use this other ability to special summon one Mecha Phantom Beast monster by sacrificing itself and another one to then get out Dang Long. O-Line's ability allows us to have another token on the field. We're going to use Token and Danglong to summon our Psy-Frame Lord Omega for that interrupt. Danglong's ability allows us to then put the Zephraniu onto the field because we also were allowed to search for a counter trap, and we put that counter trap down, and in addition to having our Zephraniu there, we now have 2 interrupts in addition, or 2 negates in addition to an interrupt. We actually have 3 negates because we have an Ash Blossom in our hand as well. Now they're going to try and use D-Force. We're going to use our Yang Zine in order to get rid of that, so we can destroy our Zephraniu. Zephraniu's ability allows us to search for a Zephyr spell trap card, so we look for Zephyr Providence for later. They tried to do a Destiny Hero shenanigans. We said no because of Ash Blossom. They're trying to do another special thing. We say no because of Herald of the Arclight. And then they're not able to do much, so they're just going to use their Shadow Mist to suicide into us. And this is where it goes really, really, really funly. Because the only thing we have left, we don't have any more negates, right? But what we do have is Psy-Frame Lord Omega, who I have not used his ability yet. Now, what's going to happen is they're going to try and use Vision Hero Ferris's ability from their hand to get some shenanigans of some more hero things going on. But in order to do that, they had to discard a card, which they did, and I then reacted to chain it with my Psy-Frame Lord to choose a card from their hand to get rid of, and because it ended up choosing their Vision Hero Ferris from their hand to put in banish with Psy-Frame Lord Omega, their card's not going to be able to resolve properly, and without it being able to resolve, they surrendered because they were pissed off that I completely stopped them from being able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! It was great! And here's duel number 2. It's gonna go for the first parts pretty damn similarly to the first duel because we have Skullcrabat and Duelist Alliance. Skullcrabat will allow us to look for Performapal Sorcerer, and then we can use Duelist Alliance to look for our Lustor Pendulum Dragon, so it's going to go essentially the exact same way. It's super nice we have Crossout Designator to stop them from doing any shenanigans to us, and we have Solemn Judgment for an extra negate as well. This is going to go the exact same. We're going to special summon Pendulum Sorcerer, destroy Lustor Pendulum to get Odd-Eye Synchron, then play Odd-Eye Synchron to turn Skullcrabat into a tuner, to then get Crystron Halqifibrax out, which then we're going to use to get out Despot. I could have also summoned Jet Synchron and done that instead. They're going to try an Effect Veiler, but this is why we have Crossout Designator, bitches! Boom! Done. Effect Veiler, gone, shebang, shabam, shibdone. And now we get Mecha Phantom Beast out so that we can get our 3 tokens, so that we can then do Herald of the Arclight with Despot and 1 token. And then we can use Mecha Phantom Beast and another token to get out O-Lion, which then we use O-Lion and a token to get out Dang Long. We get another token because of O-Lion's ability, and we got to search for that counter trap. We're then going to take the token and Dang Long to summon Psy-Frame Lord onto the field and use Dang Long's other ability to set Zephraniu from our deck out onto the field so that that Yang Zine counter trap can actually function. I use Psy-Frame Lord's ability to put the Effect Veiler that we had banished back into the graveyard. We're not really useful because we're not going to be able to use Effect Veiler again for anything, but that's okay because it was nice, it was there, it was like, why not? Let's do it. They tried to summon their Sky Striker Ace Ray, and we're going to Solemn Judgment that because we don't want them to play Yu-Gi-Oh! So we're going to prevent them from getting any of that done and onto the field. They're going to try and Monster Reform Ray, but we're going to use our other counter trap to prevent that from happening and destroy Zephraniu in the process. Zephraniu then allows us to get Zephyr Providence, which is super nice. They ended their turn because we completely effectively stopped them from playing anything in that one. We're going to use Zephyr Providence to get Zephyrath for the future for Pendulum Scales. We then used our Pendulum Scale that was there to get our Sorcerer out onto the field. And we destroyed both of our scales because they already Pendulum Summoned this turn, so we can't Pendulum Summon again. And the reason that I destroyed 2 of them was so that I could get a Performapal Joker, Skullcrabat Joker, and the Odd Eyes Dissolver out, so that we could then use it to Fusion Summon our Vortex Dragon later on in the duel to attack them with. We're going to put our Dissolver into the zone, same with Zephyrath. We're going to put our Skullcrabat down, and we're going to use the Performapal Odd Eyes Sorceress and Skullcrabat to link summon our Metaphos Electromite, because we needed them with 2 Pendulum monsters in order to summon it, and obviously we couldn't Pendulum summon it with the Negate and then Interrupt that we have on our field with Framelord and Herald of the Arclight. And like I said, if this card is link summoned, you can add 1 Pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up, which is nice for Pendulum summoning in the future. Once per turn, you can target 1 other face-up card you control and destroy it, then add 1 face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. So what we're going to do is use Electromite's ability to put Ariadne into our extra deck so that we can try and use its ability later on. I never actually was able to get it out because of other shenanigans that are going to happen, but that was the idea. They then put their Rose onto the field so that they can actually start summoning from their Sky Striker stuff. They ended up having to crash into our Herald of the Arclight, so we lost our Negate, which was very unfortunate, and then they're just going to do Sky Striker things as they continue to go on throughout here. Now, unfortunately for them, we had an Ash Blossom, so we weren't completely out of Negates yet, so we were able to stop that from happening, which was really, really nice. And they were able to get another spell card into their hand, but that's okay, because we're going to win this turn. So we ended up drawing Curtain Raiser, and our Framelord comes back. So what we're going to do is Zephyrath's ability allows us to take a Zephyr monster from our deck, put it into our extra deck, and then it changes its scale. So what we're going to do is they're going to try and max C. We're going to cross out Designator them because we don't want them to have the ability of drawing cards and potentially getting a hand trap to stop us from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because we want to stop them from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So what we did was we put our Zephyraxi into here so that we could change its Pendulum Scale to a 1, so that we could then special summon it onto the field. We then used the ability of Electromite to destroy Zephyrath because we had already used it, so it was useless to us this turn, so that we could then search for another one, and we looked for Odd Eyes Synchron that we were able to get from that into our hand. We then were able to get another Yangzing one, and with Dissolver's ability, because we had another monster onto the field and in our hand, we were able to use the Odd Eye Synchron and the other monster that we had in order to use Dissolver's ability to get Vortex Dragon Fusion Summon onto our field. We then used the ability of Vortex Dragon to put the monster that was in their extra zone back into their extra deck so that we didn't have to worry about it anymore. They then, of course, had another card on their field to summon their Sky Striker back, but it doesn't matter because we have so much damage on our field that we were able to stop them and smash into them and kill them. So, Vortex Dragon came in clutch there by pushing their card back into their extra deck, and we had so much damage on the field and so many interrupts and negates from stopping them from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! That we were able to go through and do that. It's really, really fun. But that's going to be it for the video today for this very fun Pendulum deck. If you guys want to try it out, go ahead. The deck list description is in the description down below so that you can go through and make it yourself if you would like. If you have suggestions on other Pendulum decks you want to see, or just decks that you want to see me build in general, you're more than welcome to let me know, because I love building decks. I think it's super fun to make things that are anti-meta and that you don't see very often, and you go through and play archetypes that are forgotten about and not used very much. It's really, really fun, especially because a lot of people don't know how to play against them. But if you guys enjoyed this, again, make sure that you go ahead and click the like button and subscribe, because they taste delicious, and it helps us get closer to that 1,000 mark that we are very, very close to hitting. I appreciate all of you guys being here very much, and without taking up any more of y'all's time, I will go ahead and let you beautiful people go. Goodbye, my lovelies.